At the beginning of the movie, we meet Teresa and her friend Caleb, who are relaxing by the lake. Their friend is ill, and Teresa goes to the cabin to check on Jessica, who is sleeping and is unresponsive. Teresa decides to read a book when suddenly Jessica wakes up and starts to mumble words from the book, saying, "Let me in," and then she stumbles to the ground, choking. Teresa helps her and checks her heartbeat. At that moment, Jessica wakes up and tears her hair from her scalp. Meanwhile, Caleb takes some time for himself and they joins him. Jessica takes a drone and injures herself falling into the river, and Caleb jumps in to help her, not knowing what he is getting into, where he becomes a victim. Then Jessica emerges from the water, floating in the air, and the movie officially begins. One day earlier, we meet Beth, whose pregnancy test result is worrying her. She has a sister named Ellie, who is a tattoo artist with 3 children, Bridget, Danny, and Cassie. While they are at home, someone rings the doorbell, and it's their neighbor Jake, who has a crush on Bridget, but she rejects his offer. However, as they go back inside, the doorbell rings again, and this time Ellie goes out, accidentally injuring her sister out of fear. Beth joins them at the table, and Cassie explains her new weapon, a doll that protects against the ghosts. Beth says she doesn't believe in ghosts and brings her a gift, also for their father, which creates a moment of silence. Ellie sends the kids for drinks so she can tell her sister that she has divorced her husband. She called Beth to inform her, but she didn't answer, and now she feels sorry about it. She says she has made a mistake, and at that moment, an earthquake occurs, causing the kids to throw everything and run while the ground shakes for a moment that feels like an eternity. After the shaking stops, Danny notices a hole in the ground. He decides to go down alone, where he finds a picture, an old record, and also the Book of the Dead. Their mother is worried about them. One of the neighbors, Gabe, comes out and says he will drive them to find the kids. In the meantime, the lift opens and the kids are safe, which eases Ellie's concern. Danny shows Bridget the book he brought, but she is not interested in some old book, saying it's locked for a reason. However, Danny wants to open it, and the book cuts him, causing his blood to fall on it, which it absorbs and opens on its own. Inside, they see some horrifying scenes that scare Bridget, so she closes it and says to return it first thing in the morning. But immediately after she goes out, he opens the book again and plays the vinyl he found, which activates a distorted male voice from Father Marcus introducing the Book of the Dead. A man in the background screams that this book must be destroyed, and the recording ends. Then Danny plays another vinyl that continues the story about rituals and incantations, reciting phrases that allow contact with supernatural forces. In the meantime, Ellie takes the lift to carry things, and we return to the incantation, which changes into another language, scaring Danny, so he turns it off. But the recitation continues, and a force appears outside that approaches them as the book flips pages by itself, and the force enters the building, attacking Ellie, who is on the ceiling, and suddenly everything pauses for a moment. Ellie wakes up, feeling a headache, trying to get out of the elevator where a voice grunts behind her. Then, something starts pushing and hitting her, pulling her from the ground to choke her, using her arms and legs too, as her bones start to crack while she screams. Then the power goes out, and Beth goes to check on Ellie, who is not in her room. In the meantime, Ellie appears at the door, starting to cook dinner, cracking eggs in the frying pan with the shells. Then she chuckles while saying it would be good to cut them all and join them as one family. She manages to regain her composure for a moment and says, "It's in me," while falling to the ground and moving toward them, throwing up while also urging her sister, "Don't let it take my babies." Beth and Danny realize what's happening and lead her to the exit, but the lift is closed and the stairs are gone, leaving them trapped, which brings them back inside. The neighbors join them, and Gabriel starts praying, thinking she has died. After that, Beth approaches her, not knowing what to do next, and then her phone rings with Ellie asking for help. When she turns around, she sees that Ellie is still alive, but she is burning. They place her in cold water, where she thrashes and jumps up while looking at them. She starts screaming and falls back into the tub, after which she rises, saying, "Their mother is with maggots now." Ellie moves toward them while holding broken glass in her hand, attacking her sister and stabbing her arm. Then she jumps on Bridget with a weapon that lightly cuts her face, where Danny manages to shake her off. At that moment, Gabriel appears at the door, whom Ellie attacks, eating his eye in the hallway where Beth is, and locks the door. Here, Ellie hits her head against the door, and Beth watches her through the keyhole as she chases the neighbors. One of them shoots her with a shotgun, ending his life like the others. Bridget then mentions to Danny that their mother looks like one of the pictures from the book, leading them to a fight where Beth separates them. Soon, she discovers the reason for their conflict when she sees the vinyl next to the book. The wound Bridget received turns black and starts to spread as the book flips pages by itself, and she begins to bleed. In the meantime, Ellie's voice is humming something sweet, bringing Cassie to the door, thinking that she is still her mother. Ellie convinces her to open it, saying they could be a happy family. Cassie reaches toward the lock, ready to open the door, but Ellie grabs her by the neck, prompting the others to rush to help, and the door slams shut again. Beth returns, startled by Bridget, who is eating a glass as if she is lost, just like her mother. Her voice changes to a deep, manly tone, and she attacks Beth, who fights back. Danny arrives, and she begins to chase him, leading to Cassie, who uses her doll as a weapon to stab her sister, who falls dead. Cassie thinks this is a nightmare and fears the same fate might befall them. Meanwhile, Danny has packed up the dead sister just in case. Now Beth wants to listen to the vinyl to find a solution to all this. Meanwhile, Ellie climbs into the space above the room looking for a way in while the kids follow her, but their true threat is Bridget, who attacks them. Danny uses a knife in self-defense. Bridget uses her strength for a new attack and returns the knife to Danny's hand while throwing blood on him. As Bridget draws the knife again, Danny ignites a fire just in time, which burns it. In the meantime, Ellie finds a spot in the room above Beth, seeing her reflection in the window. While Ellie is obsessed with the track, Beth attacks her, which accomplishes nothing as she is thrown into the middle room where the others are now, and Danny dies from his wounds. Ellie joins them, attacking Beth while pressing her stomach since she is pregnant, and Cassie throws her scissors, buying them time. The two exit into the hallway, and Beth tries to repair the lift, which isn't working out, so she takes the shotgun and encounters Ellie, shooting her in the leg and then in the arm, causing her to fall. The children join her as they all laugh out loud and awaken the neighbors while they flee into the lift, which closes and blood begins to rise from the floor, filling the lift more and more as the book spins. The kids merge with Ellie into a monster as the lift fills with blood, and at that moment, the lift opens and they emerge, all soaked in blood. Beth leads Cassie further to safety in a car that successfully starts, but upon exiting, the gate doesn't not open right away, only after several attempts, but now the car won't start as it is stuck. Behind them, they see the monster approaching, and they flee from the car. The gate begins to close, and they slowly squeeze through while Ellie follows them and grabs Cassie by the leg, dragging her and starting the chainsaw to cut off her head, while Beth pushes back and Ellie aims for her with the chainsaw. Ellie then grabs her by the leg and powers the machine, wanting to pull her in, and Cassie helps by turning off the machine. Beth takes the chainsaw and attacks Ellie while Cassie powers the machine, pulling Ellie inside, and ultimately Beth goes after her with the chainsaw, kicking her head back into the machine. Cassie stands aside the whole time and receives support from Beth at the end of this struggle. She takes the chainsaw, and together they leave the place. The scene suddenly shifts to what leads us back to the beginning of the movie, with Jessica stopping in the parking lot and noticing the bloody scene from before, during which an invisible force enters her, and the new cycle begins.